What the hey, Megapodtastic's Crazy Joe coming at you late on a Friday morning. Or early on a Friday morning and late on a Thursday night. You be the judge. It is 1 in the morning and I am just getting back to my car. I got off the train. I went into the city of Philadelphia tonight to see a screening of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, hosted by the one and only Mr. William Shatner. William Shatner came out and did a Q&A after the movie. I'm wearing my Wrath of Khan shirt. So I didn't intend to go to this. I knew about this, but I was not intending to go because on weeknights, you know, it's a Thursday night, or it was a Thursday night. Weeknights I got to pick the kids up from school. You know, the kids got to get picked up around between 4:30 and 5. We got dinners, and you know, it's a big thing. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I got to go into the city. It's a hassle. So I decided I'm not going to do it. But a friend of mine contacted me, had an extra ticket. It was a guy I went to high school with. His mom says, hey, come with Jim and I. You know, I see her sporadically, very rarely, but sporadically. And I haven't seen since like high school. I mean, it's been almost 25 years. So I said, yes, I will go. I'm thinking I'm going to have to stop talking in a parking lot at 1 in the morning because there are neighbors and I don't want to wake people up. So let me cut this video and we'll come back tomorrow morning where I will tell you the rest of my tale. It'll be tomorrow morning for me. It's going to be an instantaneous cut for you. You're not even going to notice I went anywhere. It has been a couple days since I started this video. I intended to get back to it the next day. I didn't. Anyway, it is a beautiful, beautiful Monday. For the first time all year, I saw turtles swimming in the pond. In the summer and spring months, you can often see turtles swimming in this pond, but I have not seen them this year until today. So I kind of feel like, aha, the spring summer has finally arrived because the turtles are out of hibernation. So, yay! Well, continuing my story where I left off. God, I hope you can hear me. It's a little bit of wind. Anyway, went to see William Shatner at the Academy of Music, or the Starfleet Academy of Music, if we want to be really nerdy about it. So first they showed the movie, and then afterwards Bill Shatner came out, did a Q&A with the fans. Side note, a little bit of nerdity about myself that you may find interesting. I am currently wearing a Star Trek V: The Final Frontier t-shirt. You may have noticed when this video started, I was wearing a Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan shirt. Well, interesting little bit of insanity on my part. I have t-shirts for each of the first 6 Star Trek movies that have the posters for each of the first 6 movies. And I always, when I wear them in order. So I knew I was going to the Academy of Music on Thursday. So I wore my Star Trek The Motion Picture shirt on Wednesday. Thursday I wore my Wrath of Khan shirt. Friday, Search for Spock. Saturday, The Voyage Home. And this one, Star Trek V, was supposed to be Sunday, but through a bunch of means, you know, it's not a very interesting story. I was unable to wear this shirt yesterday, so I'm wearing it today. So there you have it, 1 through 5 in chronological order, and I stopped wearing my Star Trek VI shirt. I have one. I have a Star Trek VI shirt, but I don't wear it anymore because I don't like. I'm really tangenting. I don't really like the shirt. It's the movie poster, and I like the movie poster, but the way it printed, the letters washed out, and you can't really read the title. So I'm like, all right, this isn't one of the better ones. So therefore, I have so many shirts in my closet. I took it out of circulation because I'm like, it's just taking up room in my closet, and I'm not as crazy about that shirt. So, that was a tangent. Shatner comes out after the movie, starts doing Q&A, and right off the bat, there's a guy in the front row who Shatner starts talking to. Here's how it all went down. Shatner starts talking about the special effects in Star Trek the Motion Picture, and he could not recall the name of the special effects artist who did the effects in Star Trek the Motion Picture. So front row center, there's a dude sitting there. I was back a bit, so I see the back of this guy's head. I don't see his face. He says, "Douglas Trumbull." And Shatner goes, "Yes, Douglas Trumbull, thank you. What's your name?" And the guy says, "Brian." Shatner says, "Thank you, Brian." So for the rest of the movie, or the rest of the Q&A, Shatner kept picking on Brian. If he had a question, he couldn't remember the name of the title, Space Seed. He's talking about Khan's first appearance. He's like, "Oh, what was the name of the episode Ricardo came on?" "Brian, what was the name of the episode?" And Brian, "Space Seed, okay." So as the night goes on, he kept coming back to Brian, kept asking Brian questions, kept picking on Brian, had a little interplay with Brian going there. And again, I only saw the back of Brian's head. So they get to a point where they're doing Q&A, and the way the Q&A worked was people had submitted their questions beforehand on index cards that had their full names written. So the moderator who's doing the Q&A says, "This next question's from Brian," stops in his tracks, looks down at Brian sitting front and center and says, "Hey Brian, what's your last name?" And Brian says, "Atene." And the guy looks at the card and throws it over his shoulder. That was the name on the card. He wasn't going to be joking around. He wasn't going to answer Brian's question. Well, I'm sitting in my chair and I said, "Brian Atene?" And I got very excited. Now, I don't know if you know why, but if you've been around YouTube for a while, you might know why I got excited. All right, I'm trying to leave some space over here on this side of the screen because I'm going to insert something right here. I'm going to insert it right here. Back around 05, 06, somewhere around then, a video was updated, a video was uploaded to YouTube around 05, 06, maybe 07, somewhere in that area. It's a good decade ago. And the video ended up going viral. Got millions and millions of views. And it became so famous that the guy in the video, people were doing parody videos and imitating him and putting videos up, kind of doing their take on his video. But the video was a guy, a 20-year-old guy in 1986, submitting an audition tape to Stanley Kubrick to be in Full Metal Jacket. I'm gonna put the video right there. Right there. Look for it right there.
My name is Brian Atene.
Does this look familiar? If you've been on YouTube for a good long time, you may remember this video. The guy, Brian Atene. That's the guy who was sitting front and row, right there, when I went and saw Shatner. I got extremely excited. The history of the Brian Atene tape is an interesting one, and I don't know if everyone knows the full story. I know more than most, and even I don't know everything. But there's a whole backstory to this tape, where it came from, how it got out there. Nobody knows who uploaded it to YouTube. The initial person who uploaded it, the version I'm linking here, actually comes from Brian himself's own page. But when it originally went to YouTube, someone else uploaded it, and nobody knows who did it, because I knew about the existence of this tape since the 90s, long before there was a YouTube. It dates back to a certain video store that was in my neighborhood, and people that worked at that video store, and everyone denied that they were the one who put this up on YouTube. So the history of how this came to be on YouTube is still shrouded in mystery, but it did. And Brian has a very good sense of humor about it. He thinks it's very funny. I mean, like I said, this comes from his own channel, and he put response videos, follow-up videos over the years, and he ended up on Tosh.0 over this. So when I saw this, I'm like, I got very excited. I'm like, I gotta go up to the front row after the show. I gotta talk to Brian, and I did. And I told him, you know, who I was and that I was familiar with him. And very nice guy, very friendly, good sense of humor about himself. I like him a lot, and we took this picture. So I thought that was really cool. Not only did I get to see William Shatner, I got to meet YouTube legend Brian Atene. And like I said, if you don't know who Brian Atene is, you may not have been on YouTube 10 years ago, because he was quite the sensation 10 years ago. In fact, because that tape was shot in 1986, his audition for Stanley Kubrick was shot in 1986, people were coming out of the woodwork pretending to be the modern day Brian Atene, following up the video. There was this one fat guy with a beard who kept coming on and saying, "Good day, Mr. Kubrick. I am Brian Atene, and it is, 20 years later." And some people actually thought that really was him. It wasn't. And eventually, the real Brian did surface and say, "Hey, here I am. I'm the real Brian Atene." And I will put a link to those videos down below. But I just want to say, it was great seeing Mr. Shatner. It was great seeing my friend from 20 years ago who invited me, and his mother, and I'm very grateful to them for the invite. And it was really cool seeing Brian Atene. I also saw a local Philadelphia band who you may or may not have heard of. If you haven't heard of them, look them up. Do a Google search. The Roddenberries. The Roddenberries. I saw them perform at Wizard World Philadelphia several years ago. And they were in attendance at the show. I recognized them. I recognized one of them. I'm like, "Hey, aren't you with the Roddenberries?" And then his friend was wearing a shirt that said the Roddenberries. I'm like, "Ah, you are with the Roddenberries." But check them out. They apparently have a new album in the works, and I'm going to try to get them on my podcast to promote their new album when the time comes. So there you have it. Last Thursday, a night spent with William Shatner. A night spent with my good friend, Mr. Jim Stanton, who I haven't seen in close to 25 years, and his mother, and Mr. Brian Atene. A night that will not soon be forgotten. So with that, I say, keep on wearing those pajamas. Oh, one more thing. I guest starred on the podcast. The topic is Trek this week with my good friends Clinton, Chuck Tomasi, Clinton Alvord, Chuck Tomasi, Craig Stepp. You may know them from the Tropic is Trek podcast or from their separate podcasts, Comedy Forecast with the number 4 and Technorama. I will put all those links down below. But if you want to hear me talk Star Trek on the Topic is Trek, you can listen to that. And hey, guess what particular movie we happen to be talking about on the show? That one. Keep wearing those pajamas.